Sir, you're about to see something really special.
Really thought this part of my life was behind me. Frenzy disappeared with the drinking 3 years ago. Why now? This makes no sense, and I'm right on the verge of freaking out.
Back from your life,
these people can be animals.
what you burn,
Thingy's out.
some bitter things you should never
Good cheese.
learn. Wallow through the days.
Remember, cosplay's not consent.
So here's to me. Congratulations, me. Yay, me.
This would all be so much easier if I was hammered. Hammered.
Won't be there anymore. You can take away the anger, but you leave behind the pain. It's your soul I
New ventures are always scary.
feel till I'm melting
Blah, blah, blah. Something positive and uplifting.
tomorrow, but the hurt will still remain. In your soul I'll live forever till I'm melting in.
Don't miss our new film, The Love Song of William H. Shaw, coming soon to a streaming service near you. Hey everyone, this is Cliff from Talking Pondo. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about spoilers on the show. We do talk about the films in a certain amount of detail, so you may want to watch the film first and then come back if you're not a fan of spoilers. Also, every now and then there's a little bit of adult language, so we wanted to give you fair warning on that. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we really appreciate you listening. Welcome to Season 2 of Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty give each other a film to watch and talk about them in detail. Some episodes will include a special guest. Making Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty talk to people they have worked with and discuss their experiences on set. All right, Marty, that's us. We're back.
Yes.
Talking Pondo.
Talking Pondo. Am I listening to the same episode?
What is Pondo?
Oh, I already messed up my whole gimmick, you know. We're going to do the whole episode talking like this, man.
Oh, that's
but
right.
That really sounds more like Harold Ramis in the heavy metal movie than Chong, so.
I can do my cheat. Amen. Let's go.
So I got to drive you crazy real quick if we tried to keep that shtick up the whole week. Or
Yeah, I can do my Pedro de Pacas.
We watched Up in Smoke this week. Then we also watched Heart Like a Wheel.
Heart Like
this
a Wheel.
week. And
Yeah.
what is Pondo? Pondo. Wow, what is Pondo? Pondo's a lot of things. It mostly was this guy who was in this movie that he's not even happy with, but he played this character named Pondo, and we were like, oh, if that can get made, anything can get made, not realizing the real reason why that got made, because it's full of gratuitous nudity and, you know, dumb humor, and that was enough to sell something in the 80s. But we went, well, that means you can make any movie and get it put out, right? And, you know, we weren't completely wrong.
No, we weren't. But also, I think the meaning Pondo evolved over time because, like you said, as we learned about the film business, we realized how that film got made. Oh, that film got made because they put a bunch of dancers and strippers from Vancouver in it, and that was why it got made.
Yeah.
And, that was enough to get some funding and you had to do the pitch, the whole deal. Got to know the right people and
Hot off the heels of things like Animal House and Bachelor Party, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So Talking Pondo is really talking about movies.
Talking about movies, yeah.
Sometimes
And the movies
talk about
that
how
made
we-
us make movies. And
Yeah, in a
Up
way.
in Smoke is definitely influential, and I think I may have seen
I would
pieces
agree.
of Heart Like a Wheel, but
Mhm.
that one kind of fell through the cracks, as we'll get into. But let's start with Up in Smoke, I guess, because I have so
Alright.
much to say about the other movie. I think it would be
Let me grab my notes here.
better to
Let's
start with that one.
Up in Smoke. There they are. Okay.
Hmm.
So, Up in Smoke. Let me get started here. Your description. Stoner musicians Pedro de Pacas and Anthony Mann Stoner unknowingly smuggle a van made entirely of marijuana from Mexico to Los Angeles with incompetent police Sergeant Stadenko hot on their trail.
Well, that eventually happens. They always love to drop us about a half hour into these movies with the synopsis, right?
Well, that's your log line, I
Yeah.
guess. And your storyline is Cheech and Chong meet up by chance on the highway somewhere in California. They go in search of dope and are accidentally deported to Mexico, where in their desperation to get home, they agree to drive a van back to the States so they can get back in time for a gig they're due to play. Unaware of the properties from which the van is constructed, they make their way back, having acquired a couple of female hitchhikers, whilst all the time avoiding the cops who they are not even aware are following them.
I didn't know your name was Alex, man. So I guess that does kind of sum the whole thing up. You know, I've seen this movie I don't know how many times. It's like an album to me. I just put it on, and you know, because it is an album, the soundtrack, where they would put little pieces of the movie between the songs and stuff, and it's because we didn't have videotape, you just listened to the record at home and felt like you were watching the movie again. But it's such an easy breezy watch. Seen it so many times I didn't have to like analyze it, but since that's what we do for the pod, it was interesting to sit down and watch this one through the Talking Pondo eyes. And one of my first notes was, they are so dirty. They're Latinos. It's funny because we go look at other characters in all the other movies we've watched, and these are like the grimiest lead characters. You know, it's so 70s aesthetic. It's sad they didn't make more movies in the 70s, because by the time we get to the 80s, Cheech and Chong are very clean looking in those movies. But this one is still the dirty 70s look. In a way,
I would say this one and Nice Dreams look are the two that kind of look like this. And then by the time you get to next movie, like, it's not even close
that
anymore.
80s sheen.
Yeah. Well, just the production's got more money. You know, like, I'm sure they filmed in somebody's house, and those were somebody's kids. You know, and that was somebody's bathroom, the laundry he peed in, and starting a movie with a Warner Brothers Looney Tunes cartoon, that was pretty surprising, especially considering I think this was put out by, like, what was it, Paramount or Columbia? Maybe? Yeah, it's Paramount.
I guess back then it was like music rights were easier to do and stuff. So
I guess
it'd probably be trickier now.
And fucking Strother Martin's in this. You know, that's the failure to communicate guy for anybody who, he was in Cool Hand Luke.
The goddamn Finkelstein shit, kid. Son of a bitch.
Work your way up to these goddamn bananas.
If you watch the deleted scenes, he has a little bit more in the movie where he's like picking up Anthony at jail or something. The scene doesn't really make a lot of sense. I can see why it's not in the movie, but it's there on the DVD.
I literally did not know that his name was Anthony Manstoner until I checked the credits of this movie the last time and was like, oh my God, that's right. I think Anthony, I did at one point and I just forgot.
I want to talk to you. No. Yeah. Don't walk away when I'm talking to you.
That there's an early shot of when Cheech comes out of the house and he sees his car for that first time, and he goes sliding up to the ride, and all the cholos and the cholas are sitting on the porches and shit, all hanging around and shit. That just, it looks so different in my teenage years. I mean, it was sort of like, it looked like a normal Tucson kind of West Side, but but also kind of amped up for television, for a movie, you know, I don't know, comic in a comical way, I guess. But yeah, the film is, it doesn't look great. I mean, it looks fine, but a lot of their movies later would look a lot better.
Yeah. One of the main notes I have is towards the end of the movie, Chong's backstage and he can't see straight because what did you give him? Well, I gave him some ups or downs or whatever. How many fingers you see, you know, and he's like out of it. There's this weird cut that happens where she's like, well, I could give him a popper, and then the next thing you know, you see him in the front and she's trying to help him up. Yeah, it's weird, right? It's like, this feels like something. I've always thought, you know, and you could your brain can and go like, oh, they gave him the popper and he ran outside, but you never see that happen. So we don't really know what that strange gap is there.
I always found it weird that he sobers up when he starts smelling the weed.
Yeah, because he never got a buzz the whole movie, right? He's just been waiting.
I guess, because it's like, oh, but that's the thing that detoxifies him and allows him to drum. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's hilarious.
Man, he sold you lawn clippings, Jack. I ain't high. What, you mean you ain't high? I ain't high.
Did my man Curtis come through or what?
Oh yeah, don't beg me wine.
Don't
Go
beg
in the
me
kitchen.
wine. Go
Give
in
me
the
a cookie.
kitchen.
That was a line we used to repeat over and over again.
Over and over again, dude. Don't beg, because that was back in the day where you'd have a bag of chips or somebody and someone want, you'd be like, don't beg me one.
Go in the kitchen.
Fucking go in the
Give me
kitchen,
a
man.
cookie.
I'm giving you shit. What's Labrador? Still to this day makes me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Does Howdy Doody have wooden balls, Marty? I mean, that still makes me laugh. That giant joint, when he pulls that fucker out and he, oh my, and that whole sequence is just great. That whole interior car sequence is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like right from the moment he gets in the car, he's like, hey, you ain't no chick, man. I'm sorry, but that's the only way people will pull over. And then he's like, oh, I love your interior. Because you could see Cheech is thinking of a way to get him out of the car. And he's like, I love your interior, and the next thing you know, they're talking and they're smoking and there's the beginning of Pedro and the Man, right? It's fantastic.
Ain't a toothpick, man.
that musical montage after that kind of sequence with the whole Richie Valens. Well, it's not Richie Valens cover, but it's a cover
he did do that framed song. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I always drift off. It's like this weird. It's this weird nexus bubble zone where I don't focus on the movie for some reason, and it happens every time. Like I have to force myself to watch it. I don't know why.
I know what you mean.
I just want to look at something else or drift off, or I can't explain it. But it's happened my entire life watching this movie.
I was forcing myself to pay attention in spots like that more this go around. It's kind of like my chauffeur had spots like that too. And then I thought, and it's so silly because I've seen this movie so many times. I'm thinking, oh, they're hauling the car away and we'll never see the lowrider again. What the hell am I thinking? He's driving that car through the whole freaking movie almost, right till the very end. But for some reason during that scene, I'm like, oh, that's what happened to the car. It's like, yeah, for about 5 minutes. Then they drove home. Then you go through that whole weird, it's fucking vodka, man. And then the next thing you know, we got the new uniforms.
Yes.
And now we're back into quotable territory.
Now we're back into, exactly. But that weird.
I want something where we are something different, but the same,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. The three band members off to the side, the guys who do the horns, and they're all always by themselves in their own shots as a group, reminds me of the three guys from Bowfinger who ended up being the crew at the end who were arguing about Scorsese and shit. And I wonder if that was maybe a callback to it, but it makes me
similar structure. Yeah.
Now that I see that, it makes me laugh every time I see it.
No, we want something else, man.
Yeah.
These are genuine diamonds, baby. These are real diamonds, man. Oh, you scratched my windshield. And that sets him off to the whole, I'm not going to look at his neck and like what you're saying about showing up with the strawberries not here. Oh, it's a bird answering the door, man.
Well, and it's got that Pedro's not here bit's got to be a callback to Dave's not here.
Yeah.
It's changed.
A way to sneak that in, kind of.
Yeah. Yep. Something that always bugged me about this movie is the record scratch.
Oh, yeah.
Where we get into the house and the record's playing and it's skipping. And for some reason, it just stops playing and skipping altogether when Strawberry steps into the room. And I'm just like...
Like, what, did he step on a record player?
Yeah, what happened? What did he do? Did he exactly? Did he throw something at? What? Yeah.
I guess their albums were so Foley heavy that they were putting a little bit of that kind of, structure into a movie. But they didn't do as much of that as they go forward. It's only this one that has the weird sound gags and stuff. Yeah.
It is definitely a sound gag. It just always kind of bugged me, I guess, because like you said, it's a great way to look at it. And I think you're right. Cause it's like a comedy album. I mean, I listened to a lot of comedy albums as a kid. They did that all the time, but you don't expect it in a movie when you see the movie version.
Right.
It really does look like Chong inhales the coal off that roach.
He probably
which
did.
he probably did, and I laugh every time because he's like, oh man, been there, done that.
It's a point to the team.
The first time we see Stadenko, he's peering through the zipper of he's peering through a painted man's pants in his zipper.
We've achieved Stacy Keach again, first time since Road Games, I believe. Jamie Lee Curtis will be mentioned later. on the microphone.
That sped up slapstick, it doesn't work for me. You know, is that under cranking? Is that what that is? You know, where
like when they're on the motorcycle and it's going.
Yeah. That under cranking just doesn't work for me. It looks weird. Shoot the moon is probably I laugh hard.
Oh yeah.
Every time.
We were using speaking of Pondo, Shoot the Moon Productions was a name we were floating around in the mid-90s at one point.
That's another one we should probably do, actually. We'll do one of ours. The house bust is another nexus that loses me. There's another little nexus where I'm just like about halfway into it, I just drift, and then I come back and Pedro's talking to him on the phone, telling him to get out.
We really did get cut off.
Yeah.
We got to find some way to get you out of here. He's like, like I was just outside.
Chili choking pepper belly.
Mm-hmm.
That's good shit. That makes me laugh every time. Can't bush you for seeds.
Of course, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit.
It's just La Migra, man. And I forgot. Mm-hmm. You know, we're fine as long as you got an ID. Next thing you know, they're in Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another one of those quick cuts and patching it together with voice or sound effects.
So good.
And then we're off and running because then, my uncle's got a van we got to smuggle back across the border, you know. Mm-hmm. So he gets all the refurnishings done or whatever it was he was saying.
Tuck and roll. He's got a tuck and roll shop.
Mm-hmm. Is that a 1 or a 7? It looks like a 7. And then we walk into the wrong place, which also includes the infamous Cheeks Stay Together. Even notice it's a pot shop. He just has to find the toilet. He doesn't care.
Yeah, but like you said, it's a real sudden jump to suddenly we're in Mexico because the movie bam,
like, boom,
turns on you.
They got a green card.
Yep. And one of the things that I always think of with this movie is this movie feels a lot longer than the actual time that it takes to watch the movie.
Like our next movie too. Yeah.
It always feels like an hour 45, but it's an hour 26.
Yeah, it's just so packed.
Mm-hmm. And it just, and at this point when this movie, I always think of this, always when I watch this movie, right around the time we get to Mexico, I look at my watch and go, we've been going for about an hour, right? And it's like, nope, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know,
these are the seeds that will sow the destruction. Long trucks. Come on, ice cream. Mm-hmm. Don't you eat a little bit of ice cream with it?
One of the fucking funniest things ever. I read that dog that takes that burrito, that wasn't a trained dog. That was just a dog that walked into shot and just took the burrito out of that guy's hand. And so they just ad-libbed around it, improv around it, and kept the scene.
It's one of the best lines in the movie too, where it's like, you never know what could be in one of those things, man. It could be a dog or something. He's all, good dog, man. And so it's like it works where he's saying good dog to the dog, or the dog is actually good inside the burrito.
Come on, ice cream. That's great. I wonder how much of the budget went to actually making that weed van.
That's probably a big chunk, I would think. Look, they're busting nuns, man. Let's watch.
My favorite quote in the movie of all of it is, the buying and selling of dope may be the last free enterprise left in America. That's my favorite.
Stop that. Doing little shadow puppets. We are on the verge.
So good. I love how they're on the highway and he goes, there's a good donut shop. It's like, there's no donut shop. You're on a mountainous highway. There's nothing around. What donut shop are you talking about?
He's got those really powerful dogs. No, on the floor. These are great, Sarge. You can see everything.
I love this movie. It sort of wanders into its finale.
Mm-hmm.
The joke's still going, gotta wrap it up, but mind if I have a bite of your hot dog? Is that gay coded? I don't know. Chong is sitting on Cheech's lap.
Exactly.
So, and maybe it's gay coded, maybe it isn't. I don't know, but it's funny. It's funny as hell.
It's just a funny, awkward sight gag of like, if any other police officer came around the corner and saw one person sitting on the other person's lap after they pulled him over, but he's so high from the exhaust of the fucking fan that all he cares about is that hot dog on the fucking. You can have the whole thing, man. You want the Fritos? Oh no, this will be you have a nice day.
Oh, so good.
And the irony of it all. I wish we had what he was smoking, man. It's like, you are what he was smoking.
You are what he was smoking.
But of course, the whole van catches on fire and fills up the nightclub.
Fills up the nightclub, and of course, it fills it up just at the perfect time when. And where did all those fucking cheeseburgers suddenly come from? It's like,
well, yeah, it was the magic of the
magical cheeseburger.
We're high, so people started ordering food.
Right.
And it's like we're just cutting out all the middleman and
cheeseburgers. Here you go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like airplane type humor.
I didn't know your name was Alex, man. That's a classic. I love that joke. I fucking love that joke. I love how when Chong is in the ladies' room with her, and you realize that all the girls in the ladies' room they all act like her. They all sort of act like her in a weird way. It's really, really hilarious. Oh my god, and then of course Stadenko freaking out is the best. That's the best of it all. I am stoned. Do you understand me? So good.
Here's the whole operation. Lost my best dog.
You telling me to go with it? I'll go with it.
Which leads into the next Nice Dreams, where he's still Stadenko, but he's like the stoned out Stadenko.
Yeah.
That one kind of functions like as much of a sequel as you could get in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought they were tied together, but not necessarily sequential, like a trilogy. But like they're all about Pedro and the man,
Pretty much, yeah.
The music show at the end is such a cartoon. The weed wafts in, everyone gets mellow except Chong, who draws power from the smoke. Cut to cheeseburgers and the crowd gorging. It's just like it's like an adult Looney Tune or something. Mm-hmm. It's like you would see on Family Guy,
right?
50 years early.
And all those other bands always crack me up too, especially the one at the beginning of their song, "Piss Off!" Bing, 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 bing.
But what's the first thing that we start this movie with? What's the first thing that we hear? A fucking cartoon.
Oh, that's true.
So it makes complete sense to me that it's
mm-hmm.
brought back itself full circle, and you just gotta go with it.
They're punk rock,
Yeah, it's fantastic. I really like this movie. I always have. I can't remember how much they spent on it. It wasn't much.
Yeah. We had to watch it in full frame back in the day, and this is a movie that you really,
they spent
you miss half the movie in full frame because you're supposed to see both of them at the same time, and they're reacting to each other. And the full frame would be a close up of one person's face, and it was still funny, but it's so nice that we can see it in widescreen. No.
Yeah, I agree.
How much did it cost?
$2 million.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's a lot cheaper than our other movie.
Yeah. Yeah, Wikipedia says that before it had opened, let's see here. What did they say? It says something like they opened it in Texas in 9 theaters in August of '78, and it grossed $344,000 in its first 10 days. And prior to its official release date, it had already made $1.7 million.
Wow!
And in the first month, it made $20 million. It went on to gross $76 million at the domestic box office and $100 million worldwide.
So it's kind of the opposite of our next movie.
And I imagine Cheech and Chong hopefully had a really a nice piece of that at least. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I would think that early on it certainly spawned many more movie projects from them. So
Yeah, or maybe Nice Dreams and next movie were the big payers, but I mean, yeah, that's I always love it when it's, hey, we spent $4 million on it, it made $100 million worldwide. That's fantastic.
yeah, opposed to the next movie that cost $6 million or
Mm-hmm.
or $7 million. It was one of the two. They put it in 5 states. It underperformed, and they gave up on it.
$7.5 million.
Whew.
$7.5 million. Yeah, which back in '83 when that one thing was made was more like probably 15 or 20 now. But we'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else. Let's see. The car that Tommy Chong drives at the beginning of the movie is actually owned by Jack Nicholson, which is really hilarious. And the team found it hard to get any of the traditional advertising outlets to promote their film. And so they started putting comic strips on bus benches. That's interesting.
Well, it worked.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to go, I got to go probably 4 stars.
That's what I give it.
It's undeniably funny. It's pretty well made, especially for the time it was made and the amount of money they put into it. More than anything, it's hilarious, and I think it's I think that the template of especially Chong's character is one that really hurt people who smoked marijuana and the marijuana movement in general, because that's how people see most people who smoke weed is, hey man, like back off, man. And the fact of the matter is that ain't true at all. It's very surprising the amount of people that you don't know that smoke weed,
Right.
But having said that,
that's the movie Half Baked.
Even
grandma was getting high. Yeah.
Your grandma was getting high, yeah. But that's I'm glad to sort of see that stereotype kind of die, and I think it sort of should. It was of it, especially that hippie thing. It was of its time and place.
It was like the stereotype of the hitchhikers, where they were all the same mindset. It was like this a different version of that.
Still hilarious. And I'm not knocking Cheech or Chong. Hilarious. Some of my favorites. We saw them live.
Yeah,
so it was amazing.
But I know what you mean. It was like back then. It's how comedy transgresses, and this movie's getting close to 50 years old, strangely enough. And back then, it was a lot more, like, oh shit, representation of anything,
right? Represent, yeah.
And now it's like, oh, okay, we don't necessarily always have to have the stoner movies. Maybe we can have. I mean, it's funny, of course. There's a place for it, but you can also have. Like we brought up before, I like seeing things where people casually are hitting a bong, but they're just having conversation and it doesn't affect them. Weird. Dinner in America's use of pot was very good. He showed that kid how to fucking lighten up, and his whole life got better. You don't see that a whole lot in the movies. You're going to want to smoke a gram of that every day for the rest of your life. What if I ever get to have it? Well, hopefully you will, or whatever the line was.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm talking about. It's so much, because so much of it, I think 80% of it is honestly, hey man, fucking dirt, kind of, a lot. I mean, so much of that in the 80s and the 90s, especially and into the 2000s, evil bong, all that shit.
And Chong is in evil bong.
Of course he is. How high? You had him over and over again, and
How High. How High is partially responsible for Jay and Silent Bob reboot. That's a story for another day.
And I'm not knocking How High. I enjoyed How High, but
it's just that type of humor.
That type of humor, that type of stereotype, right?
Well, once it becomes legal, you don't need that type of outrageousness to break the barriers. Now it can be. Now we can do more of the normalized instead of the reefer madness parody, which in a way kind of is what this was. And then some people, without context, think that that's how people are. It's like, no, they're making fun of the stoner who they said was in reefer madness. You take one hit and you jump out a window.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like that's that stereo. That's where I'm saying that stereotype hurt. That Chong stereotype hurt them because people who have no exposure to it at all and have never been around it think, well, that's just all they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like dirty. If you've never been a hippie, you think they're dirty hippies. They are dirty hippies, but
So watch the Corsican Brothers. There's not even any weed in that movie. See, they're actors.
which brings us to Heart Like a Wheel.
Heart Like a Wheel. As I like to call it, redneck graffiti. And that's not an insult, because I think it's part of that grand tradition of that good 10 years of redneck cinema we had between Deliverance to Stroker Ace. It's weird how Burt Reynolds kind of bookends the whole thing. You got your 72 to about 83.
Mm-hmm.
And this one comes at about the tail end of Stroker Ace, doesn't it? Which also wasn't that big of a hit. I guess the tides were changing. By 84, you didn't have as much.
It is about
Dukes of Hazzard entertainment, you know.
Yeah, but it is about a woman who, in real life, was a part of that.
So tell the people what the film is.
Yeah. So Heart Like a Wheel, 1983. Let's see here. Rated PG. Shirley Muldowney is determined to be a top fuel drag racer, although no woman has ever raced them before.
This is true.
It's a true story. Despite the high risks of this kind of racing and the burden it places on her family life, she perseveres in her dream. Storyline. Let's see here. Shirley Muldowney came by the love of her driving fast cars naturally after her father placed her behind the steering wheel as he was driving when she was a child. And as she and her then boyfriend Jack Muldowney, who would become her husband, participated in local street races when she was a teenager. As her mechanic and initial race car builder, Jack somewhat supported his wife's quest to drive in national hot rod races, although he saw her drag racing more as a hobby, her full-time job being as a wife and mother, while she saw it as her potential career. In the mid-1960s, Shirley, the type of woman who would not take no for an answer, fought through the stereotype that anyone involved in any type of motorsport had to be a man to get licensed in the National Hot Rod Association, with the help of fellow driver Connie Kalita, who had more than a professional interest in her. Because of her female chutzpah, Connie gave her the moniker Cha-Cha, which she disliked, which would be widely used by the public and the media. As Shirley progressed in the sport, her relationships with both Jack and Connie would be tested, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, what you really have to keep in mind while watching the movie is the context of women didn't even have the right to vote for very long at this point. So it was highly unusual for something like this to be happening. We've covered things like this before, like My Chauffeur, for example, but this is more of a realistic version. Mm-hmm.
She started she married Jack Muldowney in I think 57 and started street racing in 57. Okay.
That's why I call it redneck graffiti, because we're in the American graffiti era where they're taking whatever 50s songs they can license, throwing them in there. Yeah. And it's the 50s, and we're romanticizing street racing. Guys, please don't do street racing. It's such a fucking nuisance. We have such a problem with it here. It's ridiculous. But
interesting. But yeah, so she street races, and then this is back in, just I want to say this real quick for context, like we were talking context. Now you talk about a woman being able to vote or whatever. That happened in the 1920s, so that's earlier. But I don't think women could get credit cards or have lines of credit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So it's, she grew up at a time where it had a lot of restrictions and pushed a lot of barriers, like a lot of women did, to open up these spaces. And I mean, there are women racers now all over. My dad was an amateur racer. But he went to the track, a quarter-mile track like she did, and raced his cars there. He didn't race on the street. And he had a Camaro that he raced. He had an El Camino that he raced. And I went as a kid during the summer. I went to so many of these these drag races. I've seen top fuel drag cars. I saw a funny car hit the wall and destroy itself, just like in the movie, dude. I literally saw that. And when my dad ran his Camaro, it always scared the shit out of me because that thing ran, well, I think 12-second quarter mile, which is not super fast, 13 maybe or something. Not super
where all
fast.
The budget went. Yeah,
but they had a lot of good car racing in this. That's for sure, and it's very realistic. It reminded me of being at the track as a kid, because back then it was almost like a carnival. It was not real well formed. They had rules and shit, but it was like you said, it was like redneck kind of. bunch of rednecks gathering up and having sodas and popcorn or whatever and watching people race. And yeah. So anyway, sorry. So I deviated there, but just to say I think she pushed a lot of boundaries in a time like we were talking about that women were.
Oh, definitely.
Quite a few restrictions.
The DP was Tak Fujimoto.
Tak Fujimoto, baby. Are you kidding me?
I mean, among other movies, That Thing You Do.
Silence of the Lambs.
Singles.
Yeah.
Now that's weird.
His credit list is amazing.
Yeah. And also the director of the movie, what was his name again?
Jonathan Kaplan.
Yeah, he's responsible for things like Over the Edge, The Accused, Project X, the Matthew Broderick movie. But see, he comes from the Roger Corman school of movies. He was trained by him, which makes sense why he's bringing Dick Miller along with him.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, look, Dick Miller. Hey, look, it's Hoyt Axton. This is Proto Gremlins. Yeah. You get a little pre-Gremlins here, which is pretty crazy. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, Hoyt Axton is the dad in this movie. He's also the guy who sang the Mitchell theme song. So I've never heard of Aurora Productions.
This is totally an indie. This was put out by Embassy originally, the distributor. Okay. But yeah, you could tell this must have been made on its own and then picked up. Yeah.
I read that she didn't much care for how it portrayed her life, but she liked how it portrayed the sport of racing. Said it was good for racing. Right. But I mean, I thought her dad, as a redneck in the movie, was a pretty progressive guy, because he was telling her, don't take away your ability to feed yourself and be independent. Get a high school education and make sure you're solid before you go marrying anybody, having to rely on it for the rest of your life. And I thought that was pretty good, because of course later on when they split up, that's exactly what she has to do to a certain extent.
I mean, just because this is like was a huge flop because they didn't have any faith in it, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's the interest was waning at the time, and they didn't put any marketing behind it. I think that's why it's picked up as a cult film and found its audience as it went on.
This movie was all over cable for like a year or two easily. I mean, it played for a while, and I remember watching it quite a few times because it would just be on constantly. And I finally just give up and watch it again.
You know what the working title of it was? There were several, but one of them was American Beauty.
Really? That's interesting.
That's crazy, right? That's a different movie.
I like Heart Like a Wheel. I think it fits the movie quite well.
They never play the song in the movie. Apparently that's a Linda Ronstadt song.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Let's see, what else was there? Oh, so you said, that Shirley didn't necessarily care for it too much. She didn't really like who I feel was the kind of woefully miscast Bonnie Bedelia. She does a good enough a job. She's very subtle in like a Keanu Reeves way of the subtleness. I remember me of Keanu in that Hardball movie where he was the baseball coach, where he plays stuff on his face, but not as much as you would want. Because for me, the main thing why she doesn't completely work, there's several reasons, but I feel like she doesn't have any emotion towards the sport itself. Now, I know the movie's not really about racing per se. It's about all the relationships, but I never see her being like, I'm going to win. I do this. This is why I want to do this. Yeah, we know your dad put you on the lap, but we never really, it's kind of like, this is my job. This is what I do, kind of is the vibe from her. And it was like, oh, I feel like maybe there should have been a spark of and maybe she just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, maybe that's script.
Because this brings me to my next point, Beau Bridges. Beau Bridges is working off the same script, right? The same script that he's working off and Leo Rossi's working off. But he found something in there. It shows how good of an actor he is. He found something in that page where he's like, I'm going to make you like this guy and not like this guy at the same time. I'm showing you I'm a creep, but am I really a creep? I don't like, well, he's helping. He's doing. Maybe it was just this, and he's really good at pulling that out of that character.
Yeah.
And Bonnie Bedelia and Leo Rossi aren't keeping up with him. It needed somebody who was going to go toe for toe with him. And he's like going like, this is an Oscar movie, right, guys? And they're kind of like clocking in because maybe they're not finding it in the script, or maybe they're not getting it in the direction. I don't know. But he was great in it. He is amazing in that movie.
If you were to level them, I would say that he is of a higher level or caliber of actor than Bonnie Bedelia or Leo Rossi, honestly.
He was the thing where I was like, and he's a replacement. Somebody else dropped out of the movie because they were not getting along with somebody or something. So he came in at the last second, like a week into production, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine this movie without Beau Bridges in it.
That's crazy.
Then you basically really do have a proto Lifetime movie at that point.
Yeah, the scene where that scene, there's great tension scenes in the movie, but there's that scene where she showed up after the accident to the pit, and they're frantically trying to put this motor together, and the judge is like, you only got a minute. He's like, come on, you can give me more than that. And they're screaming at each other, and then he gets up to chase the dude, and she follows, and that security guard grabs her arm, and she starts screaming, and he loses his shit and just starts beating the piss out of everybody and has to be restrained, and he gets kicked out of the NHRA. It's like, so good. It's so well done. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
He's constantly going back and forth of, oh, look, he's fucking around on her. What the fuck? Oh, no, maybe he's not. No, he's defending her honor. Oh, he's helping her. Oh, but then he's being a shithead again. Yeah. And so it finally gets to the end of the movie where, I mean, in my experience in life, people like to bring up drama and God knows what else happened, but you're hitting a burn victim, for God's sake. No, it just hurts even
and
worse.
Her kid.
Where it's like, even after all that and then that, and it's like, ooh. That's why I say it's kind of proto Lifetime in a way, because those always seem to have some sort of, like watching it, I was like, I knew, first husband's gonna be an asshole, then other guy's gonna swoop it. Like, you can check the boxes off on this thing.
You can tell.
You know exactly where it's going. It's very workmanlike. It's the most middle of the road movie we have ever covered. And I'm glad we did, though, because this is a movie that you could teach this in a screenwriting class, because it hits the act 1, 2, 3 so perfectly by the numbers that you can break that down and show proper story structure as kind of like a baseline. So it's very important for that respect, because it's hitting the bam, bam, bam. They don't really make them like that anymore as much.
Well,
I admire the fact that you could put something like this in the theaters back in the day, because now it would go right to a TV, but back then you could put this in theater for a little bit anyway.
Well, jumping back to a couple things. First off, I think that's what Lifetime movies are. They're movies that want to be like this, but but will never make it into theaters. And I think this type of movie, I don't think anybody was trying to make this middle of the road movie. That's you don't go in to make a movie going, I'm going to make a middle of the road movie. No,
I don't think Beau Bridges was. No,
right. But at the same time, I'd say about Beau Bridges' character, I like the fact that he really dug into that character, and I like the fact that character's layered. That character is they whoever wrote that character was sure to show a person who can like human beings in general, can be both shitty and great to people.
That's what made me feel like, as an actor, I think he found more than was there and pulled it out, is the sense I got, because I didn't see the other two. They were like when Leo Rossi beats her and she leaves.
Right.
He's just kind of wandering around like, I wish I had something else to do in the scene, but I don't know what to do. Beau knows what to do. He's throwing shit. He's keeping it up. That's just a difference. It's an interesting study in acting techniques, definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And everybody's good in it, but I just feel like there's different strengths.
For me, it's a very, I'll say this, the production got the look of it right. It felt like the late 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah, they do manage to go through that. Music choices reminded me of film school once again, where it's like, oh, you licensed whatever music from that time period you could get. It doesn't necessarily fit the scene, but there it is.
Yeah.
The 60s ones especially, yeah.
it's an early girl power, woman breaking the norm, especially in this type of thing movie.
After Norma Ray and things.
Yeah. It moves well, but it doesn't have the look or feel of a film made in '83. It looks to me, and this is not again. I think the look and the movement is Tack doing what he can with the director, but I don't know if it's the cameras, the lenses, the film stock, but it feels more like 79, 80. It reminded me of it looked like 10 to me, because we've recently watched 10 with Blake Edwards, and that's 80. And that's what it looked like, but it's made in 80, but it's released in 83. So it's like, I don't know. It had this
director's, he's a Corman guy, and and most of his movies tend to look like they were just like, oh, you need somebody, I'll do it, you know. But things like Over the Edge, you could tell that one, the Matt Dillon movie, it felt like that was a passion one. But a lot of his other ones, like the Project X and some of the others, it's just like...
Project X I remember that being so flat.
It's just kind of like, oh, yeah, you just show up and you did your job. And I feel like that's what everybody did here. Is like they showed up, they made the movie, they went home. There probably wasn't any stories or anything about what happened. Probably wasn't a bumpy production. But, you know, it was just, we show up, we do it. And, yeah, that thing, yeah.
Yeah. Again,
directorial choices, yeah.
I saw a Funny Car Crash. So when I seen that in the movie, I always remember and I thought they really did a really good job. Like she gets out of it on fire, and that close up of her eyes through the
oh yeah, it's horrifying.
It
shows just how fucked up she got from that, you know.
Yeah, it's really well done there. This movie and came out around the time of Eddie and the Cruisers, and they feel for some reason to me sort of joined at the hip, and I can't tell you why. I honestly couldn't tell you why. Probably because they were, same summer release on cable when I was stuck inside the house or something like that.
But the safe word is Ned Beatty.
Ned Beatty?
Yes, because you couldn't get Burt Reynolds in this movie, but you got Bill McKinney. He's from Deliverance. He plays that other guy.
And he's Big Daddy Don Garlitz.
Yeah.
That's right.
Some of you might remember him from Master Ninja 1. But yes, and I was like, see, there's another one of the connections right there, you know.
Yeah. This is early Anthony Edwards.
Oh, I was about to say, suddenly her kid is Anthony Edwards. And I'm just laughing. Because see, back then you have to tell yourself nobody knew who Anthony Edwards was yet.
Exactly.
So it wasn't a weird switch.
Yeah,
but now I'm like, fucking suddenly her kid is Anthony Edwards, and I can't focus on anything but Anthony Edwards is suddenly in this movie. And
he has the worst part of this movie.
Well, yeah.
The beard. That fucking beard they put on him is just, it's hysterically bad. It's so bad.
Now, this is something I guessed pretty early on, and it was true. Leo Rossi and Anthony Edwards cannot have a scene together. They are not allowed. You talk on the phone once, but I only acted with the young version of my son, not you. Bye-bye. We will not be together on screen. Oh, and also Merry Christmas. We got to start vetting these movies if they got Christmas scenes in them, man, because we have a Christmas movie every 4 movies.
It's a Christmas movie. Just because you celebrate Christmas in the movie doesn't make it a Christmas
you
movie.
Want a dark Christmas movie, you got a nice fucked up Christmas towards the end of this movie. Definitely.
You can have a Bonnie Bedelia double feature Christmas and watch Die Hard and this.
Right, that's what I was thinking, sir. You bring this one into the conversation. Everybody talks about Die Hard. You got to bring Heart Like a Wheel back into it. Now, this is a 3-hour movie crammed into just under 2-hour movies. Kind of like how you said Up in Smoke feels like. But the biopic, they always try to scrunch it all in. Because they had a lot to tell. They had like 3 decades to go over. So,
is this our first movie with Dick Miller in it?
It might be.
I think it is. Suddenly, Paul Mazursky's favorite actor, Paul Bartel, is in the movie.
Oh, yeah, you had to get Paul Bartel because the Corman connection. Yeah, that didn't surprise me. That felt like that would be a deleted scene nowadays.
Yeah,
I know why it's there. I know why all the scenes are there. They're character development stuff, but a modern editor would have trimmed this thing down to 90 minutes, and you'd lose some stuff. But that scene was kind of the most extraneous.
I think it would focus more. I think if you cut that, you'd lose a bit of the beginning. You'd probably lose some one of those dad scenes. Like you wouldn't have the scene where she picks him up and he's drunk and he's singing the song and then it fades into the funeral.
Oh yeah, and then all you see is just the procession of cars. You never see a cemetery or anything. That's a really clever way of not having to shoot at a cemetery and shit.
Very clever. I think they change her look in this movie almost as many times as they do Meg Ryan in When Harry Met Sally. It's like, like, I mean, it makes sense. This movie goes through 25 years or so, but it's still like, wow. They put a lot of different looks on her.
Mm-hmm. What was your previous note before that one? Before the funeral procession, what were you talking about before that?
Oh, geez. You can't ask me to keep things straight.
Oh, I thought it was easy. I was trying to, maybe it'll come back to me.
It was, it was about Paul Mazursky and Paul Bartel. We were talking about the fake beard on Anthony Edwards is god awful.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, just how it was, yeah. Oh, the other scene that I thought would be semi-disposable, and some people would argue with me on it because I read some reviews and it was one of their favorite scenes, and I kind of get it, is the one-sided phone conversation towards the end of the movie where she's doing the radio interview. Back then, they'd show the whole fucking thing. Now, you wouldn't get a whole... Because it's like, I get it. People are being assholes to her, and it's like she's really trying to hold it together right now because everything's fucked up, but... Yeah.
Well, I also think it's her, like, it's kind of asserting herself. Like, you know, if you're going to be a woman in a male dominated space, you're going to have to assert yourself. You're going to have to, stand your ground and tell people to, demand that people treat you the way they treat everybody else. Mm-hmm. Especially back then when it's everything's, hey, little darling, and pats on the ass and every other kind of, shit that you'd never get away with now.
I'll sign your thing, but I'm still going to say something demeaning to you as I do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Connie sued this production.
Did she really?
Oh, he
did. My bad.
Yeah, because he wanted as much money as Shirley was getting, the $300,000. So he sued for like $1 million. I don't know whatever happened because the movie didn't make any money.
Yeah, the movie didn't make any money. So yeah.
But,
I mean, we know
an interesting depiction of him. It's not the most favorable light. Sports movies like Breaking Away. You could show people being shitheads in sports movies back then. They don't like to do that as much anymore.
So it didn't do well in theaters. It did 275,000. Is what IMDb is claiming.
That's
$7.5 million to make it.
Yeah,
but I would also say that we don't know what it did in the other windows. Yeah, and again, it played on cable constantly.
That's true. It was more money back then, but
I'm not saying they got paid millions of dollars, but
yeah,
it's quite possible
because you don't find it anywhere. Didn't you have to search everywhere to even find a DVD of this?
I did. I did, and I remember because that's since we've been doing this podcast. It's been I've been kind of searching around for things. Part of this is about so we can talk about movies, but also part of it is so that I can throw you things that I know you haven't seen and hear what you have to think about them because we have so little time to watch movies. I have a lot of stuff I want to hear your thoughts on. And so I was like, I got to see what he thinks about this. And so, I ended up buying a copy off of Amazon Prime for I want to say it was $16 or $17.
Yeah, it's not streaming anywhere.
Just so that I could watch it and then mail it to you. So
yeah, no streaming.
No, nowhere.
You actually have to buy the physical disc.
Yeah, it's nowhere. You can't find it. So
like
people, you're not going to be able to see it. Sorry. If you'd like, you can contact this place and I'll mail you the DVD and you can keep it.
Wow, even the DVD
for a certain amount of money.
You can get it for about $16 used. The DVD.
There it is.
So you're still going to a little bit of an investment.
Yeah. So this is an out of printer, guys. This is ran on cable, out of print. I find it an interesting movie.
Yeah,
like it said, redneck cinema. It's kind of the end of redneck cinema. It sticks with you. It's a true story. It's it's a biopic before they started calling them biopics.
Like Six Pack was another one of the
Six Pack
nails in the coffin around that same time period. Yes. It's interesting how they all shifted to the car racing thing. Well, Smoking the Bandit has a lot to do with.
Well, it was
injecting
Smoking the
car
Bandit,
culture.
Stroker Ace. You mentioned.
They start blending those genres together. And, well, I watched Joe Bob do a 2.5-hour lecture about redneck cinema once at the Loft, so I feel like I took a class in it.
Yeah. Well, and Hal Needham was very big and had very much a part of that with Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run and Stroker Ace and all that type of stuff. And he owned the Skull Bandit racing team that ran in NASCAR, so he was involved in racing too.
But it's like, she's going to get the thing signed. She's going to show everybody up. Dude's going to get in an accident. She's going to get in an accident. But yet it's still compelling in the way it puts it all together. So,
Well, and here's what I'll say. I think if you had watched this in '83 before,
because see,
everybody was so aware of these tropes and so
that's why they don't make them like this anymore.
Yeah, it would have played well, really well. But now because you're right, it's storytelling tropes,
which makes sense why she said, I appreciate what it did for the sport, but it's not really my story per se. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you probably cared more about the sport. You never really get to see her be like, I care about racing. This is what racing means to me. We never really get anything. It's more like, I have to leave you, son, and I'm crying. What's supposed to be her big scene, but it's like, where's your passion for what you're doing for a living? I never see that from her, the character.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's on the director. That's my impression anyway.
Yeah. You hear that, Jonathan Kaplan?
Yeah. It could have been Susan Lucci. It could have been Jamie Lee Curtis. There were a couple other people up for this part.
I would have loved to have seen Susan Lucci in this.
Oh, yeah.
I would have loved to have seen Susan Lucci in this. It would have been fucking awesome.
It changed her career a little bit.
Yeah. That would have been great.
But yeah, this is an interesting movie. Definitely. I'm serious when I say they could use this as something to teach in a screenwriting class, because it's one of those that so perfectly hits the beats that you could really break it down and use it to illustrate, why each part of a script is important and whatnot. And there's not a lot of movies you could do that because most movies don't go completely by the book, But back in the day, like you said, this is before they started changing stuff like that.
I'll also say, as a racing movie, one of the nice things about it is that it handles racing very matter-of-factly, whereas a lot of these other racing movies tend to glorify this, or make it kind of rednecky and sort of cartoonish. Like if you watch Stroker Ace, or you watch Days of Thunder, or you watch these other movies, it's Rubin's racing, son, and all these, it's not very realistic. And this movie is extremely realistic in what it does. When it talks about racing, when it shows you racing, it's as real as it can get it, as true to actual life racing. And I think that's why it's, when you're going to talk about racing movies, it's probably going to be up there ahead of some other stuff because of that, because it's more realistic, because it's more believable.
It's probably one of the benefits of her having no emotion towards the sport, is you don't get overly ridiculous emotion towards the sport. She's so matter-of-factly about it, You don't ever see anybody else really being like, yeah, we're going to win. There's never any of that. It's like, I got to race. I'm going to race. I got to go race. Are you excited? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think
they could maybe make another version and maybe be like a little more like,
I think some of it was there, but maybe it was just a little more subdued of a delivery than you would have liked. It wasn't coming across like you were saying with Keanu in his face.
It's the casting. Yeah. She did what she could with it, but what she said, she didn't even like racing, Bonnie Bedelia.
Yeah, she did.
So it's there you go.
Well, and Muldowney said that she was a snot on the set. That Muldowney was the racing consultant, the creative consultant on it. So she said Bedelia was, kind of haughty about it. And she also said that what did she say? Something about how she got out of the car. Oh yeah,
like it wasn't correct. Yeah.
Yeah, she said she got out of the race car like she was getting up from the dinner table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So whatever.
And I mean, I get the demure angle of it because it's like, oh, you don't expect that person to be this intense race car driver.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's more dynamics that if they unfortunately probably wouldn't redo her life story because it lost so much fucking money the first time, but I feel like you could make an even better movie out of it.
I think it's a tale that deserves. I mean, this is the first woman in drag racing, and not just the first woman. She won the crown several years in a row. That's, you got to win all four nationals to do that. The spring, the summer, the winter, and the fall nationals. So that's not fucking easy. That's not a joke.
Yeah, it kind of brings me to, I guess, my final point is it really does show misogyny and sexism in the absolute worst form possible. Because you weren't supposed to be doing it in the first place, and now you're better than me, and I hate you because you're better than me, because you make me feel emasculated or whatever. It's like, fuck you. Does the sun still come up tomorrow? Yes. So what difference does it fucking make? Let her race the car. But it's that kind of like... not even getting respect after. Eventually she does, but
yes,
that initial of, well, of course you're better at it than we are because you're not supposed to be doing it in the first place. It's just like, oh God, you can't win for losing. You know,
the first people through the breach are usually casualties. You know, the first people through the door are usually the first to go down, but they're also
the truth.
A lot of times they're heroes. You know, they're heroes for it.
And she's still around.
I admire her. I know she's still around. I admire her. She's still living, and I'd love to see somebody redo her tale in a way that's not necessarily accurate, but at least in a way that portrays her personal life
to it. I think more like the, this is my,
and like
life,
you said, more of this
lifeblood,
intensity of like, this is why I race and this is what I want to do. Yeah,
does it? There's a few moments, especially when she's trying to get her license signed in the early part.
Yeah, I love that she gets her license signed by two top. I mean, Connie Kalitta and Big Daddy Don Garlitz are in the NHL Hall of Fame. So she got her application for her license signed by two huge, massive race car drivers. That's pretty awesome. So I'm gonna go 2.5 stars. I think
that's reasonable. I gave it 2.
Okay. It's not one I'm going to watch often, but I'll go thinking of it close in comparison to other race movies. Like, I like Days of Thunder better because it's a silly ass movie, but this is a much more realistic race car movie, like completely more realistic.
You know, he's making a follow up to Days of Thunder now.
Of course he is.
I know. What if it's another Maverick though?
Yeah. Well, first off, Days of Thunder wasn't Top Gun. It was in a car. No, it was Top Gun in a car, but it wasn't anywhere near as good. We'll see. You got 2, I got 2.5. Okay. And 4 for Up in Smoke. Yeah. That makes sense.
I'd watch them both. You know, you might be like 2, but I'm like, well, that's because like all the things I was saying. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad movie.
It's not. I liked it. Subject matter, I like what it did. It's just not one, like you said, it somehow ends up being a Hallmark movie. It ends up being a Lifetime movie.
I'm saying Lifetime because I called it, and then when the domestic abuse stuff happened later, I'm like, oh, this really was a Lifetime. Yeah. But they didn't make those movies yet.
A 90s A&E movie is what this ended up being, and unfortunately it's just there's just something about it that was lacking, so.
But yeah, I'll never look at Beau Bridges the same way because now it makes me realize it's like, oh, we knew he was a really good actor, but you start to realize that whole family is, they're all
really talented
actors. Plays. And this is
they're all really talented.
If you like Beau Bridges and you haven't seen this movie, you owe it to yourself because this is one where he's really going for it the whole time and finding all the little intricacies in the character and makes you go back and forth on how you feel about him. Kind of like how you become Shirley in a way. Well, should I trust this guy? Oh, no, he's a piece of shit. Well, I'm going to trust him again. And so it's pulling you through the whole codependent thing. Or as Tom Servo once said, I can't believe I just said codependent.
Well, it's off my list. We won't have to talk about it again.
I'm sure it'll come up from time to time because, like I said, it's got a lot of scholarly aspects to it.
It's this has been an interesting podcast. The idea that we've been doing because I've seen movies that I wouldn't have seen. I'm still chewing on Dinner in America.
Oh, of course.
I still can't stop thinking about that movie. It's I don't understand why more people haven't seen it.
Yeah, they will.
I'm telling other people to see it constantly. I think it's going to be a huge cult hit 5 years from now.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do you got for me next week?
Next week, let's continue the theme a little bit, but let's move up a little bit. Let's move a couple decades forward. Your movie next week. Well, no, I can't make that joke anymore because you are employed now. I was going to say it's Friday. You ain't got a job, so you're watching Friday.
Friday, really?
You're watching Friday, but you are not watching the director's cut. Do not watch the director's cut. Watch it on MyPlex. I have the original theatrical version. What they did with the director's cut is they put all the deleted scenes back in, which are good. But I feel like they changed the pacing of the movie, and they changed the color correction on it, too, to match the deleted scenes. And so the whole movie just feels really saturated and yellow. But if you go back to the original R-rated version of Friday from 95, a nice follow-up to Up in Smoke, then, and if you feel like for extra credit, if you want to watch the deleted scenes. But
you know what? Okay. All right. You've gone completely silly. And,
for another week at least, yeah.
So what I have to give you then is completely silly. And I know you haven't seen it, and we should probably talk about it. And it's actually a good follow-up to my movie, staying within the theme. I'm going to give you Barbie.
Oh, wow. Friday and Barbie. Okay. Yeah, I certainly have not seen Barbie, so.
I know you haven't.
And I'm watching it without Oppenheimer, and I haven't seen that either, so.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer either.
I can tell you right now, I'm not giving you Oppenheimer next time. So. I mean, I kind of want to, but I still have a few things that I'm sticking.
If you give me another weed movie next time, I swear to God, I'm going to pull something.
No, that was. I can tell you right now, that was just a twofer. Yeah.
Okay.
We're transitioning to something else for the next batch. Yeah.
How many? Not many episodes left to go. I believe this is. We got about 9 more left to go, folks, and then the season's over.
Something like that to record anyway. Oh yeah, because then there's a few talking with guests coming up. Yeah, it's almost season 3, guys. Yeah.
Yep, getting there. Well, all right then. Friday Barbie, it is.
Not Shrimp on the Barbie, the Cheech movie.
Friday with the Barbie.
I thought you wanted to watch the Cheech movie, where he goes to Australia.
No, that's Shrimp on the Barbie.
That's right. Yeah, Shrimp on the Barbie.
Manana.
Eric Roberts, or hippies that were living. Oh, that was Rude Awakening.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Another movie you can't find.
No, it's that one show with Don Johnson.
Nash Bridges, the movie.
Nash Bridges, the movie.
They made a movie.
Well, all right then. Till next time then, Marty. Friday Barbie. We'll see ya.
Support the show on Buzzsprout for only $3 a month. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify or the platform of your choice. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page.